If you grew up in a Nigerian home, there is a good chance that no one sat you down and explained feelings to you. No one asked how your day went and waited for the real answer. No one said they were proud of you without it being attached to something, maybe a grade, position, a result. And if you went to your parents with a problem that was emotional than practical, there is a good chance the response would be a scripture, a proverb, or maybe silence. That was not because your parent did not love you. Most of them loved you with everything they had. It was because loving a child and knowing how to parent a child are two entirely different things. And the honest truth is, most of them were never taught the second one. Today, I want to talk about why. Not to excuse the things that hurt us, not to romanticize the past, but because you cannot move forward as a parent without understanding what you are moving away from and why it was built the way it was. Welcome back to the Family Circle Hub. I am Ako Ogoigwe, and this is day 2 of our 30-day series on raising intentional children. Yesterday, we talked about the gap between the parent you plan to be and the parent you found yourself or you find yourself being on most days. If you missed that video, I recommend going back to watch it first. The two actually sit together. Today we go one layer deeper. We look at where the patterns you are trying to change actually comes from and why once you understand the full picture, the response is not anger. It is something closer to clarity. The parent who raised most of today's Nigerian parents, we are talking roughly about people born between 1930s and 1960s, were navigating a country that was in many ways still finding its footing. Nigeria became independent in the year 1960. That's the Civil War ran from 1967 to 1970. The decade that followed brought repeated political instability, military government, and severe economic hardship. The structural adjustment programs of the 1980s and the 1990s cutted household incomes and dismantled public services. For many families, basic survival was daily negotiation. I'm not saying this to give you a history lesson, not at all. I'm saying it because context actually matters. When a parent is under genuine economical and social pressure, when the primary question is whether there will be food or whether school fees will be paid, whether the family will remain intact, that pressure changes what parenting looks like. Dr. Vonnie McLeod, a developmental psychologist whose research focused specifically on how economic hardship affects parenting, has documented what most of us already know from experience. Chronic stress does not just make life harder. Chronic stress does not just make life harder. It narrows a parent's attention. It reduces emotional availability. It makes warmth and responsiveness harder to sustain, not because the parent does not care, but because their resources, mental, emotional, physical, are under constant strain. Your grandparents, and in many cases, your parents, were not withholding from you. Not at all. They were depleting. So here is what survival parenting tends to prioritize: feeding children, educating them, keeping them safe, passing on discipline and respect. These are not no small things. In many parts of the world, they still require extraordinary efforts, and parents who provided them deserve acknowledgement for that. Yes. But here's what survival parenting tends to miss: the child's inner world. Not the behavior, Parents focused on survival were often very attentive to behavior because behavior had social consequences. What was missed was what was happening beneath the behavior. That's the feelings, the fears, the question the child was carrying and had no safe place to bring. The result for many of us is that we grew up learning to perform rather than to express. We learned what to show and what to hide. We learned that certain emotions like sadness, fear, confusion, even joy that was too loud were inconvenient. We learned to manage ourselves quietly alone because there was no space for the full version of what we're experiencing. Now you are a parent and you're watching your child feel things, express things, need things, and somewhere in your body you do not always know what to do with that, because not because you are uncaring, because no one ever taught you. You were not taught by example, and you were not given the language. So this is not a personal failure, it's a gap. And the gap can be filled. Yes, I want to be very clear about something because I have seen this misunderstood. Talking about what your parent could not give you is not the same as saying they were bad parents. No, it's not a betrayal of your culture. No, it's not ingratitude. It is an honest look at a legacy so that you can decide clearly what you want to carry forward and what you want to leave behind. Every generation of parents inherits something from the one before it. The question is never whether you were shaped by your upbringing. You were actually. We all were. The question is whether you examine that shaping or simply reproducing it without thought. Abraham Maslow, the American psychologist, best known for his work on human motivation and needs, he posed that human beings prioritize in a particular order. That's physical safety first, then belonging and connection, then growth and purpose. This is not a rigid formula, but the underlying principle holds true in parenting. A family that is focused on survival on the lowest level of that order will naturally have less capacity for the things that sit higher up: emotional attunement, self-expression, identity formation. Your parents were not making a choice to ignore your inner world. For many of them, they were simply occupied at a different level of the structure. So the provision was real, the love was real, the gap also was real. What is available to you that was not available to many of them is the space, the information, and the choice to parent with greater intention. You are watching this video. You have the capacity and the time to think about this. That is not a small thing. The question now is, what do you do with it? Over the rest of this month, we are going to walk through specific patterns, how you discipline, how you communicate, how you handle your child's emotions, how you build connection in the middle of an ordinary busy life. But all of it rests on this foundation, understanding where your defaults came from, because you cannot change a pattern you have not acknowledged. And you cannot acknowledge it clearly if you are still carrying resentment or confusion about why it exists. So by tomorrow, or before tomorrow's video, I want you to do one thing. Think of one way your parents parented you that you have found yourself repeating. Something you said you would not do, and yet you have done it. So I don't want you to judge yourself. So do not judge yourself for it. Just name it. Quietly, privately, just between you and yourself. That naming is the beginning of something. If today's conversation brought something up for you, it may be a memory, a realization, something you have been, sitting with for a long time, and you would like to share, please leave a comment below. You don't need to share more than you are ready to, but you are not alone in this. And sometimes saying things out loud, even in a comment section, is part of how we begin to move. If this video helped you see your own parents differently, even a little, share it with one person in your family. I will see you then. Bye.
Family is a blessing we hold dear.